Welcome back to part 2 in my conversation with Shae McDonald. If you haven't listened to it yet, definitely go back and listen to episode 4 of the Easy Way Out podcast, where I interview Shae about what got her up to 422 pounds and the crazy events that led her to change her path in life and start putting her health first. It's a pretty harrowing story, to be honest, and just another example, if you needed one, of how freaking tough people are who are walking around in these big bodies. These are not weaklings. These are not people without courage and grit and strength. These are just people who are suffering in such a way that those characteristics are being used to hold up the edifice of their survival mechanisms rather than promote their well-being. And today in our conversation, we just continue exploring the ways that Shae is forging a new life using her considerable qualities for herself rather than for her conditioning or her survival mechanisms or her self-harm. Before we get into the episode, I just want to reiterate that I am sorry that the sound quality on the last couple episodes has been so poor. I'm aware of it. No one's complained, but I know it sounds terrible to me. So I really want to get it ironed out. I want you to enjoy these silky tones, man. So without further ado, here is part 2 of my conversation with Shae McDonald. After all the TikToks I've done, like I give, the nuts and bolts weight loss advice. I like that stuff. I'm a nerd for different types of information. And I learned all that stuff because I spent all my life trying to figure out what's the magic bullet.
Right.
And I learned conclusively that there is no magic bullet. In fact, this stuff is rather boring. And people, after watching all my TikToks, which are very focused on mindset and perspective shifting, people will message me and be like, hey, I love your TikToks. I want to buy one of your programs. I'm like, program? Like, who do you think I am, Tony Horton?
Right.
Like, no, there is no program. I'm not going to give you a program. That would be like against everything I believe.
Exactly.
And ask me, I think you're probably better at monetizing your following than I am, because people are like, John, give me something. I'm like, no, go away. Think about your life. But yeah, you've done a really great job of just baby stepping your way to huge changes. And yeah, so tell us what's life like now, physically, emotionally?
Life is good. Life is really good. And there's no like asterisk or but or ... bad news to follow. And I haven't been able to say this in such a long time, but life is really good. I'm active about 60 minutes a day. Marriage is good. Home is good. I would say the only area that I'm really struggling in is like all of my favorite foods are like very summery foods. And so they're everywhere right now. But that's literally like my only complaint in life right now. I'm still having to like change up what I do pretty often because for whatever reason, I've got PCOS, and so my doctor seems to think it's that. But I plateau really easily. And so I was stuck at like 70 pounds down for the longest, and now I'm at 77, and it's just crawling again. So I think the next step, once I get cleared from one other thing that I'm having looked at, is to add in some sort of like maybe Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something along those lines. I'm kind of torn between that and tennis. Those are one of the only things I've never actually done before, like sports-wise, that are kind of in my area and available to me. But yeah, I would say life is good. Definitely.
Not the easiest activities on the joints, I'll
Nope.
say.
Yeah.
I've done both. And yeah, it's a good way to tear your knee and your groin and your armpit muscles all at the same time.
Ooh. See, I
But
really missed wrestling. And so in my mind, I was like, well, I don't really know that there's like adult wrestling leagues, but there's a lot of like jiu-jitsu studios around me, which is
yes. And I think in the long run, that's a fantastic idea in the long run, because it's something that you can do. If you're good at listening to your body, it's something that you can do into your later years. And it's something but it can also just bring in wear and tear. And one of the things about tennis or Brazilian jiu-jitsu is that, are you going to be able to keep doing it into your later years? And so I think having any activity is fantastic. You seem like the kind of person who will get into one thing and then get into another thing and then
I get
kind of
bored
go through
really
different
easily.
phases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. But I've tried to keep a couple things in my back pocket that I'll be able to do when I'm 80. Like
That's smart.
exercise bike. I like that. You can read a book, you can watch TV, you can do something, you can work.
Right.
Walking is money. But yeah, so I think having some sort of like low impact form of activity that you can enjoy will be a really helpful thing to think about and just put in the back of your head and let it grab onto anything that it goes, ooh, that I actually might like that, swimming,
Right.
or it's something that maybe you couldn't have done when you were 422, but now or in 6 months from now, maybe it becomes possible. That's one of the really cool things about the weight loss journey is seeing opportunities starting to pop up.
Yeah.
And those can be some of the most motivating things because it's like, oh, yeah, I want to get below 300, but I also really want to be able to like do things that I'll be able to do when I'm under 300. And those are more
Right.
like your body doesn't know what 300 pounds is. That's just an abstract idea, but
Right.
your body knows what it's like to run. And I remember being 420 myself and just being like, I would give anything to run. And it's terrible. You literally just feel like you're chained to the ground. And I think
It is.
that I had a lot of negative motivations pushing me to lose the weight, even this last time, and stuff that I, still working out personally. But I think that was one of the really good things I did was I was like, I really look forward to being able to run and to be able to get out of the car without, being afraid I'm going to blow out my knee.
Right.
Because when you're 420 and you get out of the car, it's basically like a Bulgarian split squat to the side. It's just like
Yeah.
this doesn't. How did I ever do this at any weight? This is crazy. So, what's your mobility situation like now?
100%. 100% mobility. I do struggle a little
Sweet.
bit with like fine motor skills, so like writing for too long or like typing is still pretty difficult for me. But my like facial muscles are, I'd say 90%, unless I'm like really tired, or I've actually recently learned if I'm drinking, like I get stroke face again. So that's like an unfortunate, but like kind of funny side effect, I guess. Just a nice little reminder of like, hey, 2 drink limit or else. Um, but 100% mobility, I don't have any of like the leading up to my stroke. I had a lot of symptoms that I now know like were like my body just throwing out a Hail Mary, like, hey, we are close to breaking down here. Like, get off at the next exit and change your tires, buddy. Like that I just didn't even know were symptoms. When you're that heavy, I don't know if you experience this, but when you're that heavy, like pain is just your normal, like your baseline. So I had no, and I've never been in a small body. I've never been in a body that didn't experience like exorbitant amounts of pain all the time, even when I was younger, which we now know is a problem. But I didn't know that then. I would go to the doctor and they would just say, well, she's just fat, you know? And it wasn't until I was able to advocate for myself and like, no, okay, yes, I'm fat, but something is also very wrong. I'm going to need you to do this, and this test, or put down in my chart that you're refusing. And, you know, I wish I could have advocated for myself like that in my early 20s when I was, on my own and making my own appointments and stuff. Because I let so many people tell me no, and for what? I knew something was wrong and I just didn't listen. So for me, that's number one is if my body says stop, I stop. I think I actually put up a video yesterday. I've been doing this like 30-day July challenge, and I I laid in bed all day and I like wasn't feeling well, and it was like the second day of it, and I was like, I need to get my lazy butt up and do something. Like I don't like when I feel like this. I don't like when I'm just being nobody doing nothing. And I got not even 15 seconds into a workout video, and I was like, nope, I was not lazy today. I've got food poisoning. And you
Oh,
can actually
geez.
see in the video, I'm like, oh, I wasn't just lazy, I'm sick. So listening to your body, even when it's not pain, even when it's not like, I think, I think sometimes I've conditioned myself to like have this like no excuses mindset to where like I definitely should have, it wasn't an excuse yesterday. I probably should have listened before like even getting out of bed. Like, maybe we shouldn't work out today. We might just need a Gatorade. Like, relax. But um listening to myself, I would say, is probably like my new favorite thing.
Yeah, it's it like awareness. It takes practice to
Yeah,
be able to understand, to sit with the signals that your body is giving you because it doesn't speak English, unfortunately, and so it usually communicates via pain or sensations. And yeah, after a while, you can really get dialed in and very good at translating what's going on. But yeah, it takes willingness and practice. And usually, we spend most of our time trying to, shunt away the pain and those feelings because we're under the impression that that's going to create less pain, but usually the resistance to pain just makes it worse.
right.
I want to give you the chance though, while we're here, do you have any questions for me going for, you said you were in a bit of a plateau.
Yeah, I think for me, it's so I've mentioned a little bit earlier, like I get bored really easily. So even when I'm having like great success with different types of workouts, one day I'll just wake up and be like, I don't want to do this like particular workout anymore. I spent like 6 weeks on the rowing machine and was like killing it. And then one day I was just like, I don't ever want to see a rowing machine ever again in my life. And I know that that's very much like my ADD and like my like just I'm over it kind of thing. But then I have to, I've noticed that I have to change up what I'm doing often enough that my body doesn't get used to something. So, like, how do you know when it's time to switch? Because, sometimes sometimes I'll still do things for like weeks of no results. And then I'm like frustrated that there's no results. And then I'll try, a different meal plan or a different workout or circuit. And then all of a sudden it's like melting off again. So it's like, well, I could have done this weeks ago if I would have just known. So is there like a internal like biological time like how do you even how do you know when to switch, I guess?
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on there. Generally speaking, scientifically, there is no reason to switch. Calories are calories, and you can. I think that a lot of time what's going on is that there's a because I've experienced this as well. A lot of my clients have ADHD. It's very common.
I've noticed
A
that.
lot of people are waking up to the fact that they don't think that their brains are working, quote unquote, typically. And
Hmm.
a lot of people have sort of garnered ADHD symptoms because they have untreated PTSD, which can manifest in a lot of the same ways,
Right.
or because they've trained their brain to have a deficit of attention because of, the way our lives are and the way, on TikTok will
Right.
give you ADHD if you didn't have it before. So yeah, definitely a double-edged sword there. So one of the things that's happening is that there's the belief that the grass is always greener. When the weight is slowing down, we can start to get frustrated at the inputs and say, well, I was eating this meal plan and I was doing the rower and I was losing weight and now I'm not. So these things stopped working. And that might not be the case. In fact, if your meal plan is locked in and it was working before, it's most likely nothing has changed. Oftentimes, what's happening is that, I mean, let's be real, like we're human, and sometimes people, they're just not sticking to the meal plan 100%, and they're not being real with themselves. And so they're eating more than they are willing to admit that they are. And so things are slowing down, and they're trying to find ways around reckoning with the reality of what they're doing. On the activity side, I think someone from your personality, I can definitely see a situation where you say, okay, I'm going to get on the rower. I'm going to do this every day. And you seem like, well, you said you like sports, so you're probably pretty competitive. So I bet
Hmm.
each day you're trying to beat your score from the day before,
Yep.
right? And if you don't, I bet you're a little bit hard on yourself about it. And so you're going to the rower with a lot of expectations. And over time, especially when these sort of get bundled in with your desire to lose weight and your fears about what will happen if you don't lose the weight, all of a sudden you can start to evoke fight or flight with the rower because now it's life or death. I will row or I will die. If I row slower than 15 miles an hour, this bus is going to explode. That can really poison any activity. And so when we get into that state where we're really unhappy with our progress and we're afraid things aren't working right, we can go into kind of a full freak out mode. And when we do that, our stress levels increase. We're going to retain more water. Oftentimes, the stress is going to cause us to be less aware and less perceptive of what we're putting in our mouth. It's going to make us less inclined to get up and be active. So there's just all these ways that stress will cut you off at the knees and diminish your perception, so you're not fully aware or admitting to yourself that, yeah, I ate, half a serving of mac and cheese off my kid's plate as I was, clearing the table. That's,
Right.
ask me how I know about that move. And so we can start to think, well, if I just, it's the old, I just need the magic bullet thing. Like, I just got to find the next meal plan that's going to give me that.
Right.
I got to confuse the body. And it's like, no, the body, you're not going to confuse it. It knows what a calorie is. And so we get on the new plan, we get on the new activity, and we're telling ourselves a story that the old things don't work, and that is a life and death problem. And so we're continuing that story by saying, so what the next thing is what's going to be new and exciting. So that feels good. And we associate that with this desire to fix our weight loss problem. There's a bit of a placebo effect. And we're so happy to do something new. And, the stress levels can drop. And all of a sudden, we're losing weight again. And the real kicker is that the longer you've been in that stress period, the more backlog of weight you're holding on to. You could be holding on
That
to
makes
12 or
sense.
15 pounds of water weight, especially in a big body, right? Because
Hmm.
when you get up to 420 pounds, you have way more fat cells than someone who's 170 pounds. And your body rarely gets rid of the fat cells, it just makes them smaller. So you still have this, you have 3 trillion water balloons in your body. It's just that they're deflated. And when your body wants to store water, it will go right to the places where you normally store the most fat, and it will fill up those little tanks with the water that it wants to keep in reserve.
Right.
And so it's just a recipe for a mind, what. It's a total cluster. Oftentimes, what's really most beneficial is to go back in time and say, okay, let's go back to the rower and let's break this down. Is Shae approaching the rower like the rower works for her, or she works for the rower, right? And
Mm.
I'm just gonna spitfire some common things that people get tripped up with. In another conversation, I'd love to walk through this stuff from your perspective. But oftentimes, people will start to associate their performance with their future and their hope, right? Like I already mentioned, getting a little bit in their head about the scale, and instead of trying to do the activities that will make weight loss inevitable and trusting in that future reality, we start to want to force it. And we start to say, oh, I could be, oh man, I'm getting close to 325. I could be 325 by Valentine's Day. And it's
Right.
like all of a sudden we have the most ridiculous arbitrary goal, but all of a sudden we're like, I have to be 325 by Valentine's Day, or else what? Your brain's basically in a mode where it's like, or else we die, because that's what everything is, right? And I think that's one of the big shifts that happened for you. You were literally in a life or death position, and all of a sudden you heard the voices trying to tell you not to do stuff because, oh, you'll die. And it's like, you just showed your hand. You just showed the
Right.
fallacy behind everything you're telling me, because I literally am at death's door, and you're telling me to walk through it. So you're wrong. And that broke the spell for you. And what we want to do is break that spell in all these littler ways, so that when you walk into the gym or your home gym or whatever it is, you can say, you know what, Shae, you've been kicking butt on the rower, but if we're being honest, we're getting a little bit anal about it, and we're starting to get in our own way, and we're starting to make this into a thing that it does not need to be. My heart today wants to do the elliptical, but my little buddy back here who's trying to get the train off the tracks is telling me that I have to do the rower compulsively because how else will I tell if I'm a good person or not? Because the only way I can tell if I'm good and if I deserve love is if the rower number is bigger today than it was yesterday. And so you have to do the rower every day. All of a sudden it becomes a job. And I think that, immediately when you were talking about your working life and how you bounce through careers and you start it and then you're unhappy, like these are patterns that I've dealt with, a lot of people deal with. We are just programmed to turn anything into a chore because
Right.
of this internal relationship we have to ourselves, where we have to do X in order to get Y. We have to
Right.
do this in order to get love, acceptance, value, worth, all these things that we actually have. We're just not giving ourselves permission to accept them, or building the awareness to see the reality that they're here now.
You're
So
totally
in
right.
that sense, I love that you're happy with life and happy with your home, and like you can be present in those ways. And when you start to notice that things are getting stressful and you're getting that itch to go look for some, magic beans that will grow the beanstalk that will take you to, the next benchmark that your brain has arbitrarily decided must happen by, the next bank holiday for whatever reason, Memorial Day. I gotta by Memorial Day, or else it's all going down in flames,
Right.
right? And it's just so ridiculous. And you can just pause and be in the moment and be in your home and be with your family and realize this is a story. It's a story being told by a part of me who is frozen in fear, a little snapshot taken at a time long ago when things really were dire straits. But now things are good. And if I keep acting like my house is on fire, right? I mean, the firemen are going to take those axes and they're going to chop out all your windows and they're going to chop holes in the walls, right? You ever see what firemen do to someone's house? Oh my gosh! I had a friend who called about like a water leakage, and the firemen just come in and demolish everything, right? They're basically big kids with axes,
Right.
and they're like, "We know what to do." Like that's what we do when we're get stuck in these survival modes, is we start seeing problems where there aren't problems. We define those problems as life and death problems, and then we have to solve them with life and death size solutions. And what ends up happening is we just wreck very good things. We take easy things that are just next step, next step, next step, and we overcomplicate them, and we turn what should be a downhill meandering path into either a straight line that we got to draw from here to our goal. Then if we got to walk straight up and down a mountain, that's what we got to do. Or it says, hey, let's try to push water uphill because we think it's the stuff we need is up here at the top of this hill. And if we just push this boulder hard enough and keep doing it, like all your work ethic in that context gets co-opted by these fundamentally illogical thought patterns and
Mm-hmm.
compulsions, and gets you to believe really insane things that are abusing all your ethics and your values. Like you're a hard worker, you're honest, you like to say yes to people. That's a really common one. They want to be a helper, and so this voice in your brain ends up making you everyone's doormat, and there's no energy for you because you're spending it on everybody else. And you're like your mom's second cousin's boyfriend is living in your garage, and you don't know how this what why did I say yes to this, and they're never going to leave. And it's
Right.
stuff like that. I hear stories like this all the time, and it's like, well, that's why you're 350 pounds, because you have no boundaries, because of all these voices telling you things that just aren't true, because the world is
Right.
not going to end if you kick Daryl out of the garage, right? He's not going to die, he'll be fine. That's his thing. He can worry about that. You get to have your garage back. So that's a pretty wild metaphor, but we all have a
No, I
Daryl in
definitely
a garage
follow.
somewhere.
We do. He's hiding in my Monica closet. It's full circle.
The Monica closet is a really amazing example. I'm gonna have to go back and find that episode, because
That is my
that
favorite way to
is.
explain it to people. Is like, okay, you smoke, you drink, I eat. That is what's in my Monica closet. You can
Mhm.
see a physical representation of what's wrong with me. Some people's addictions or like fears or insecurities are just better hidden than mine.
Yep. And that's one of the particularly shameful things about weight issues is that we have to wear our survival mechanism all over our body, and it's
Right.
not, and that's why the shame cycles just keep us stuck and keep us from being aware. Also, I wanted to know what, just selfishly, I wanted to know when did you first encounter my TikToks?
Um, the very first one I saw was like late January, early February. I'd been doing my seated workouts for probably about a month at that point. And the first one I ever saw, it's my
Okay.
absolute favorite, and I send it to people all the time. So if you see a bunch of shares, that's why. It's the one where you say, yeah, you may not be able to lose 100 pounds, but can you lose 1 pound 100 times? And that for me was just, I mean, I was like, well, yeah, I can do that. Like, that doesn't sound too hard. And then just breaking it up into smaller and smaller goals. I don't know why I've never thought to do that. And it sounds so like common sense, but I'm a very all or nothing person, and I've noticed a lot of overweight people or people that struggle with eating addictions and food addictions are like this too. Like, I'm either completely interested and engulfed in something, and I'm like reading Wikipedia about it at 5 a.m. when I should be sleeping, or I don't care about it at all. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
it was that thought process of like, okay, I don't have to lose 100 pounds by tomorrow, but I could lose one. I could lose two by the end of the week. And then if I do that 52 weeks, boom, that's 100 pounds right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's really difficult in this modern day time of just instant gratification. You could literally, if you wanted to, you could have rainbow hair in an hour. Amazon will ship you whatever you need, bring it to your door,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything is just fast track from there. You could custom design a purple polka dot suit and it would be at your door tomorrow. Like, anything that you could imagine can happen by this time tomorrow, except weight loss. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the most discouraging thing is like people say all the time, well, I have things that I am insecure about. I'm like, yeah, but you can change them pretty quickly, pretty cheaply, with
Mm-hmm.
minimal effort. This is something that I've got to work out for the rest of my life because it's not like I get to just reach my goal weight and then chill there forever because there's maintenance and there's plateaus and things. And I think hearing you say what I'd been so afraid of, baby steps, um, just shook me to my core.
Wow. Are there any other perspectives that stick out to you as things that really helped you? It's very interesting for me to hear that TikTok is accomplishing anything because I really get in my own head about it. So this has been a wake up call for me. It's not the
Oh,
first time somebody has been like, "Hey, by the way, I lost 100 pounds because of you. Thanks." And I'm like, "What? You're putting this in a comment in one of my TikToks? Like, come
right,
talk to me. Like, come closer. I want to know this person who has had this
right.
massive life change because of my social media."
Those are the two
But
that I like swear by. Sorry, there's a lag on my end. I didn't mean to cut
no,
you off,
yeah,
but those are the
it's
ones that
cool.
I swear by. The athlete of just like getting someone to realize like you're already doing superhuman things. You've already
Mm-hmm.
got Superman strength. You just need like his focus, and you've got everything you've ever wanted. Um, Being able to break that down and into a way that like makes it attainable and makes it more relatable. That for me just was absolutely mind blowing. And then my dad, kind of putting the military aspect of, even a Marine, carrying everything across the desert. That's only 350. Like you're doing more than that now. Like that is how strong you are. So that just shows me how capable you are. If and when you start working out regularly. For me, that was like life changing. And I know that it sounds like maybe it sounds ridiculous, but a lot of what we hear as fat people are like the can'ts. You can't ride this ride. You can't fit these clothes. You shouldn't wear that, especially as a woman. And so to flip it around and hear like not only can you, but you already are, that's that was phenomenal. And then like I said, the other one where it's like, yeah, you might not be able to lose 100 pounds, but you could lose 1 pound 100 times. And not only just making it more realistic, but breaking it down into a manageable, attainable goal and seeing someone like you that's already done it. Like I said, there's not a lot of representation of stories like ours. And the ones that are, it's like it's almost like we're inundated with like that my 600-pound life transformation where they go to sleep 600 pounds and then the next time you see them on Us Weekly they're like
Yeah.
180 and they've got hair and makeup and a whole team to make them look good for the reveal episode or whatever. And it's like I can't do that. I'll never look like that. Like it's still not a stripped down honest version of what happened. And a lot of
Yeah.
times
And
like there's
honestly, just to give a little inside baseball, one of the reasons I dislike TikTok is that, you listen to the advice of the people, I'm sure you've seen these, the advice of like how to go viral on TikTok. And it's always some version of go to the discover page. And I'm
Mhm.
so behind the times. I don't even know if there is a discover page anymore. And, go search your niche and whatever. And I go there and it's wall to wall instantaneous transformations.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I want to scream because if you notice on my account, there are no before and afters. Partially
Right.
it's because I did not take before pictures because I wasn't planning. I was trying to save my life and I was in a living hell that is hard to even describe. So sorry if I didn't document this to some so
Right.
and so's, I get the skepticism, but geez.
And
But
even if you had, they would still be in the comments like, that's fake, it's Photoshop. And I'm like, that's clearly my face, my tattoo, my eyes. Like, that's my
oh
kid
my
screaming in
gosh,
the background. What do you want from me?
yeah, I probably get it less because I just don't do it at all. But if I had been documenting the journey all the way through, totally different story, right? Because you see months and months and
Hmm.
months of the progression. Beautiful thing, right? So I'm not disparaging what you or anybody else does. But these videos, people are the most watched weight loss content is the thing where the it's usually a young woman who's dancing around and then she points at the screen and then she turns
Yeah.
around and she's 150
Boom,
pounds
I'm
lower.
skinny. Yeah.
It's like, oh no, people, I can't compete with that. I'm not gonna compete with that. It's so detrimental. And so, yeah, so sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to do this TikTok thing when that's what people want, because what I'm here to offer is the exact opposite of whatever that
Right.
is.
I definitely think, I definitely know that frustration too, especially now that I don't want to say blowing up, but it's quickly consumed my life, which I never expected. And one of the reasons that I do document everything is because I didn't see a lot of people that started out my size that did it this way. And nothing drives me crazier than when I'm like looking for inspiration, especially like early on, and I would, type in like 200-pound weight loss or I lost 200 pounds or like whatever string of keywords I thought would work to find someone like me. And I'm like halfway through her page and she went from like this frumpy, depressed mom to this like hot, like happy MILF all of a sudden. And then boom, surgery. And I'm like, okay, so why not like be more forthcoming with that? I mean, you don't have to say, disclaimer every video, I had weight loss surgery, but I shouldn't have to scroll like 80 videos to be like, "Oh, well this is why she looks freaking fantastic." Like and it's not that I don't think there's anything wrong with the surgery and I know a lot of people that have done it and it works for them and I think it's an incredible tool, but I wish especially as women, I wish that more of those creators were more upfront with that because it's so damaging. It's so unrealistic when, at 400 plus, I'm sitting here thinking like, she lost 90 pounds in like 100 days and I've only lost 20 pounds in, you know, 2 months. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm not doing anything wrong. I just didn't go under the knife. Like, that's such a,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and like I said, they shouldn't have to put a disclaimer on every video, but it is helpful information to have. And that's one of the reasons why I always joke I got into this career, I guess, accidentally. I had a video go viral that I thought was completely private. So not only was it just like my absolute worst fear, like that nightmare of like waking up in the cafeteria naked was pretty much realized for me. 30,000 people were just like, oh, here's a fat woman in her bra and like short shorts. I went to sleep a nobody, and then I woke up with like haters, but then also followers. But I wish that there were more journeys like yours that were raw. So many people only want to talk about like, oh, you just have to think happy thoughts, but like, how do
Drink
you do
water.
that when like, yeah, like, are you getting a gallon of water? Like, no, girl, I am depressed. Like, I don't I don't get out of bed. I'm not even drinking tap water. Like, I am down bad. So just being able to see stories like yours and know that like this guy gets it. Like this guy's crying in his car, and I've never related to anything more in my life. Like this guy gets it, and it's really refreshing. I guess is what I'm trying to say. That like there are so few genuine, like no filter, no gimmick, no dancing transition content creators that are doing what you're doing. And I know that you said it feels kind of like slow or like unimportant sometimes, but what you're doing is incredible, and I'm really, really grateful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Do you have 15 more minutes?
I do.
Okay, screw it. Let's do this. I really want to know about how you've gone. I mean, you've instantly gone from someone who would be ordinarily just watching the TikToks, and now you're making the TikToks, and
Yeah.
people are. There's a lot of activity on your page. Your talks are getting a lot of views. You've got a lot of people who are invested in your journey, and they're connecting with you and your personality. So, in what ways are you monetizing it? But just also what, maybe how that affects your mentality with all this, because now there's all of a sudden that much more riding on your
Yeah.
success, and that's just it can be kind of like more weight in the backpack.
Right. So to be totally honest with you about monetizing my channel, I didn't have a choice. After my stroke, the company that I was with held my job for a while, not long enough. I still wasn't walking, couldn't really talk very well, and I was in telecommunications and sales specifically. So I knew that I didn't have like the memory recall and the speech skills back yet to like speak with a customer and build a rapport and like be able to hang up the phone and then call another person and do that all over again, which is what I was doing before with no problem. But not having that memory recall, much less the ability to like document the call and type out whatever notes I would need, it was just really apparent that they weren't willing to wait for me and work with me, and it really hurt. But at that same time, during Christmas break is when my second video went viral. This is so millennial, I TikToked from my hospital bed, and I just remember being terrified that I was going to die. And I remember thinking, if I, if I make this video and someone on my page sees it, then they can kind of check in on me and help keep me accountable, and maybe I'll find like a weight loss buddy. I did not think I was going to find like 20,000 at the time, and it's only grown from there. So it was never intentional, to be honest with you, but God, it's been amazing. The way that I monetize my channel now is more through sponsorships and brand deals, which, if I'm being totally honest, are not, they're fruitful, but they're few and far between, and they're not. I mean, sometimes, I mean, I've had really, really well-known household brand names approach me, and they'll be like, "You'll get exposure," and I'm like, I don't care if I'm on, it's not Coca-Cola, but let's just say, like, I don't care if I'm on the Coca-Cola Instagram page. Like, that's not that. First of all, that's not my people. That's not who I need to find me, and that does nothing
Yeah.
for me. Like, I don't want
Exposure
exposure,
doesn't
and
pay
I
the
don't.
bills.
Right, and I don't want like a case of free Coke every month, and it wasn't them, but like I don't need that. I have now lost my job, and I've got all this PT and OT that I have to figure out how to pay for with no insurance now. Like I need things that pay. And so I was really intentional about building relationships with brands that were going to be ongoing. But it's really difficult, especially as a woman and being on this journey, because a lot of them are like, I don't think I can drop names, but to think of like the sleaziest, most like
Yeah.
fin of our time. Those are the
Yeah.
people that reach out to me, and they're like, "I'll give you $500," and I'm like, over my dead body. Like, yes, I desperately need the money, but
Yeah,
I'm
sell
not
this product that's going to make people feel bad about themselves so that they'll
right.
buy it.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. And so for me, I've had to turn down a lot more offers than I've accepted. But every single partnership that I do have and that I've had thus far, I'm extremely proud of. And they're all
that's
brands and
awesome.
products that I would recommend, even if I weren't being paid. They're all things that I either use all the time or brands that I wear all the time that are inclusive or safe, to where I don't feel like I've sold my soul at the end of the day, which
Hmm.
was always really important to me.
With a channel page my size, like there's a lot of offers that start coming out of the
Yeah,
woodwork, and some of them are just ridiculous. It's like some like fake skincare product that like it's not even real. They don't even have a real bottle. They're like
right,
holding up a picture of like a cardboard. Like they haven't even they're selling the product before they even make it. You know, there's just crazy stuff. And then there's like honestly one of the best things I should have done it was this awesome cell phone case that like can stick to anything. Like I should have done it because they would have given me one for free. But it has nothing to do with my niche.
right.
But
And
everything
it's,
else, it's like, no, I can't. I'm not gonna do this. Like
yeah,
I can't do it.
that's exactly where I am. I've got two partnerships that I that I've taken or that I'm working with now that are kind of outside my niche, and one is for glasses. And I'm like, hey, it's
Hmm.
not weight loss, but everyone's always in my comments like, oh my god, love your glasses. Where are they from? And I'm like, well, I guess that's one way to tie
Yep.
that in. And then I also kind of
Whoa.
thought to myself, like, eventually I won't be a weight loss page anymore. Like, I may still
Right.
talk about my story and kind of how I went through my journey, but eventually I'll either A, reach the goal that I've like mentally set for myself, or B, reach some other destination where I'm like, I'm not the perfect number, but I feel great. And then I can
Hmm.
stop there. So either way, I know that at some point I'll be taking on other partnerships that aren't weight focused and aren't like workout gear focused. And so I don't always say no. Sometimes I say not right now.
Hmm.
But like the biggest struggle for me is like how you were getting all those fake ones. I've never had a fake one yet, but I'll have companies reach out to me and they'll be like, "Hey, we're expanding our activewear to a plus size line and we would love for you to model for us." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I go on their page and their version of plus size stops at a 16. And I'm just like, you might want to sew two of those bad boys together for
Yeah, I was
August
just gonna
because
say
I don't
you
know what
do two of those and sew them
I don't.
together.
And I'm like, if you want to send me free
Oh
clothes,
man.
cool. But if you want me to wear them, y'all got some more expanding to do. Like, and it's like they don't even either. I look that good on camera, and I'm just like my body dysmorphia is lying to me, or like they don't even look at my page and realize like, oh, like she's bigger than what we offer. I don't know. It's really weird to
Are
me.
you tall?
I mean, I'm 5'7" in
Okay, cool.
shoes,
Just a
five
little bit
six,
more.
5'7". So I'm like, I don't feel like I'm tall. I don't feel like I'm short. I guess
No,
pretty
no, you're
average, but
taller than average. Yeah.
yeah,
I was
I'm
just
like,
wondering because if you're like 6'2", then yeah, it's gonna be you're gonna carry it differently than if you're
yeah,
5'2".
yeah. No, it's like
So
brands that I'm like, you clearly did not do your homework because I hate to break it to you, but
yeah.
I can put those pants on once, but they won't be pants anymore. This is my nice workout skirt. Go follow them.
So do you feel any pressure to like any undue pressure to make make way?
Absolutely, every day. I kick myself about brand deals that I didn't take because I'm like, oh god, it was like the sleaziest brand, but $500 is $500, and I
Mm-hmm.
haven't compromised on any of my values, which is really important to me. But sometimes I look back and I'm like,
Yep.
I really wish I had. I know that's terrible to say,
Yep.
but God, it's like, and it's also just knowing that like if I don't take it, someone else will. So it's like that product is still out there. It's still, but I don't want to be affiliated with
Right.
further harming fat people. That's the
Yeah.
absolute last thing that I want to do. And
You're a religious person, so I would say, remember that you have been provided for this entire way, even
that's
through
true.
extremely dark times. And so I'm going through it right now. I'm going through transitions and in how I run the business and how I'm doing coaching and I'm doing less and then doing more over here. And then I get this like $3,000 dental bill And I'm
Right.
like, I don't have $3,000 on hand right now. And the temptations are extreme, but I just have to like dig my heels in and be like, no, I am
Yeah.
not going back to that mindset where I'm going to start running around like a crazy person, desperate, because then I'm completely out of alignment with my values,
Right.
with my connection to everything that's important to me. And it's just like, yep, I just got to have faith. I got to remember that I'm not in control of
Right.
very much at all. And if, okay, $3,000, it'll come from somewhere. It
Right.
always does. And, so I just say, keep sticking to your guns. That's going to take you far, and it's going to keep you from getting into those survival mechanisms. And that's how you're going to keep putting one foot in front of the other all the way to a much more vital life that will be inevitable if we just keep taking the easy way.
That's right.
And with that, I think we can put a stamp on this sucker. I'm going to cut this
Awesome.
into a two-parter, two
Sweet.
episodes for the price of one. And that's how you do content, people.
Yes, that's brilliant.
Well, Shae, it has been awesome getting to talk to you. You're fantastic. And I'm so stoked that you've made the progress you have and that, things are looking bright and that, yeah, hopefully you'll just keep charging forward one
Thank
step
you
at a
so
time.
much. Thank you for having
Yeah.
me. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for hitting my For You page when I needed you the most. I'm just really grateful that I stumbled upon you when I did and that you're able to kind of speak through the BS and put it out there like it is, but also in a way that is easily digestible and understandable and really makes a difference. So thank you.
Yeah. And hearing that, really helps me uh, see the perspective I need to see of, here's a human being sitting in front of me, well, and on my computer screen. Um, and I can actually see the effect that the TikToks have had. And it's like, yeah, man, this is a lot more than just views and stuff. Like, there really are real people out there, and they really are getting far more out of it than I can ever really know. So that's hugely helpful in deciding how I go forward. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of
All right,
course.
Shae. Well, hopefully we will talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. I would love to be back.
Thank you for listening to this episode that I did with Shae McDonald. It was really awesome getting to talk to her. You can see how much she's been through. What an amazing example she is of what's possible no matter how bad your situation is. If you just get out of your own way and let yourself keep taking baby steps, keep taking the next step, keep taking the easy way out. Because the easy way is just the path of least resistance. If you find yourself wondering if that voice inside that's telling you to not work out or to work out super hard, even though you know you're going to burn out, if you're confused about which voice that is, hopefully this conversation will help clarify for you whether it's the voice that's pushing you on toward greater freedom and greater expression of who you really are, or whether it's pushing you deeper into an unhealthy relationship with old stories and delusional mindsets that are there to support a survival mechanism, a system of conditioning and compulsive behavior or compulsive avoidance rather than something that is more reflective of who you really are. Sorry, I don't have my normal studio set up to record this. I got my earphones. I'm traveling right now. Obviously, I don't even know how to use that good microphone, so maybe it doesn't make a difference. Hopefully, I'll get it figured out. Hopefully, the sound quality will be better. I really appreciate everyone who takes the time to listen to this podcast. I really appreciate the people who have left kind reviews. It's really going to help more people find this podcast. If you're looking for help on your weight loss journey, please subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can watch these podcasts in video form. Definitely subscribe to the podcast, obviously, no matter what platform you're watching on. Other ways I can support you, I have a free Facebook group where you can ask questions, get support, talk to people who have gone through or are going through right now the exact same stuff that you might be going through. It's an invaluable resource that is exactly what you make it. It's an awesome and welcoming community, and I hope you will come and join us. Also, I do have one-to-one coaching spots available right now. So if you would like to find out more about that, if you think you're really ready for that sort of commitment, then shoot me an email, john@oaksweightloss.com. I believe you'll find that and these other links in the description of the podcast or of the YouTube video below. Well, that's 5 episodes down. I guess the curse of podcasts is 7 episodes. So if we do 3 more, we've broken through the part where people usually quit. I don't think we're going to quit. I think we're just getting started. So if you have ideas, if you have someone you think I should interview, feel free to offer your suggestions. I will consider each and every one of them. So thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.